I will say this. I would have been live an hour ago, but I had to get through that Netherlands versus Mexico U17 women's semifinals before we got to talking about the men, because at this point, those are some of the more interesting things to talk about. But hey, we're back again, guys, talking all things U17, whether it's the women's, whether it's the men, it's there. We're here to talk about it. All the teams have played a game so far. And quite honestly, it's been dramatic today. Today we had our dramatic finishes on top of some very interesting, fun matchups. So, guys, again, welcome back. We are the Africans. We do primarily Canadian African content. So, if you like that type of thing, doing a few more recaps just because the format of games and how everything's fitting through. Normally, we would throw in and just have a Canadian or just an African full-on recap, but we're just going to do recaps of the whole day's worth of action coming through. And we have all of our groups that I've played today. So, like this type of content, make sure you hit the like button on the video, helps the visibility. You subscribe if you like us. Maybe I haven't bored you yet. I would appreciate that. And then also, you just leave a comment, whether on the live or afterwards, things that stood out to you, because it's growing into just the notion of, it's growing on me. I won't lie when I say this. This format, this tournament, the location, it's growing on me. It certainly is growing on me. And for that, it does open the door. Before we even get to the games, I do need to bring a point. I didn't know how this would work format wise, but one day in, yes, it's in Qatar. The woman one was in and is still going on in Morocco, but smaller might actually just be better here. And then once you get to the finals or the set quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, you go to the larger stadiums. This actually might work. It's the same concept I look at it when you look at, say, one of my side things I enjoy watching. I like wrestling. And you get a nice intimate crowd that's into the action and you enjoy that. All that energy is so much better channeled in smaller environments that it's much more intense. It's much more of a fun feel. And I think they're getting this right with this tournament. Now, granted, we've just played 8 more games today, but watching this, I know the joke for me has always just been I'm watching a game, I can see the other game on the screen while I'm watching another game on the screen, and I can see that game on the screen. But I am telling you, the environment is growing on me. I didn't think I would. Still have issues with 48 teams, but what we've got to see with it on the flip side is the idea of more teams, more debuts, more opportunities. And you want to get more players playing at this level because ultimately that'll expose them to more environments, expose them to better fields, and ultimately that is what you're hoping for. And I I love it. I really do. It's growing on me. It most certainly is growing on me. I mean, for the record, my day basically in the morning when I wake up, to give you guys a quick view, I wake up and then immediately it's 4 screens and we go. Right? It is literally 4 screens and we go. And so for me, I'm watching, I'm looking at it, and this is literally what my morning looked like. It was just me, 4 screens. I had the women in the bottom left corner. I had the Burkina Faso USA game up top. I had the Canada uh, Uganda game, which we'll get to. Or the Canadian and the African to me are so conflicted on this. The Canadian me says we're no longer San Marino. Um, and then more games as they came through. But this setup, it's growing on me. But let's get to the action as we've seen it. Today we saw IJKL getting off the ground. Czechia, USA, Burkina Faso, and Tajikistan. We saw Ireland, Uzbekistan, Paraguay, and Panama. Canada, France, Uganda, and Chile. And then, yeah, they got that wrong because Canada did not win that game 4-2. I can tell you that much. And then Mali, Austria, Saudi Arabia, and New Zealand. Games, just lovely games overall. Well, let's kind of start as the day went through. First game of the day was none other than Tajikistan versus I believe it was Czechia. And was it close? No. Frontline got all the goals. Frontline for Czechia scoring all the goals and just pure domination it was. Even if you look at the flow of the game, attacking momentum here, it was pure Czechia. And UEFA was very much strong today. We're starting to see, even though it's just one game, the hierarchy, most of the European sides are doing well, unless your name is England. The Common Bowl teams doing well, unless, yeah, Common Bowl showing well. Africa has a bit of a mixed bag. CONCACAF, up and down. And then Oceanic, happy to be there. And the likes. Liking how this went. Goals from Dominic, Peter, and Suskron. A 7-minute hat trick, natural way to go on that. And then goals, it was 5-0. No, it was 4-0 by the end of the first half. And it ends 6-1. Ultimately, looking at what the stats are telling us of that game. Oh, the fun that the stats were. And guys, as it is, every day we're going to come back. Tell us who stood out to you or what's a moment of the term that you saw. Make sure you hop on. Let us know in the comments below. But we didn't switch this. We never switched it. So let's go to the stats here. Apologies on that, guys. Here we go. Ball possession was a little bit even, but even though this was just a first half, tale of two halves, first half was all Czechia. Second half, Tajikistan had a little bit more on the ball, but couldn't truly push further than cutting the lead to 3. 11 big chances to 0 tells you the story of the game. 22 shots versus 18. 2 goalie saves versus 3. Corner kicks and fouls and the likes. We saw this all about the same. Shots 22, 9 on target, 3 only for Tajikistan. And that's where you're really wondering, where's the buildup? Where is this? But ultimately, Czechia was the more dominant of the side. I always like to take a look at touches inside the opposition box. Gives you how much defending you're doing. And 47 touches in the opposition box versus 25 truly does tell the story of this game. And it was very much one-sided and flowed as it did. And so Czechia gets their win. They get the 3 points in a tournament that's big. Even if you don't win, like I just finished watching the women's Netherlands U17 team get past France. Get past Mexico. Get to the finals where they're going to play North Korea, where probably they'll get battered. But that team won their first game, and that was it. Then they made it to the round of 16, and then the quarterfinals, and then the semifinals, and then now they're in the finals. In a tournament this big, 3 points doesn't guarantee you a trip to the round of 32, but it certainly gets you a long way there. And so get your points, secure the bag, even if it's a draw, and we go from there. I think so. What a result. But hey, you get your results, you get the goal difference. That might just be enough to get them through. Because even if they lose the next 2 games 1-0, which would be a best worst case scenario, they're still at +2. That should still be safe for a top 8 out of 12. That should still be safe. Next game of the day, Panama playing Ireland. And that game ended as well for Ireland 4-1. Truly, it was Ireland in control for the majority of the game until the end, really, when Panama was finally able to get their consolation goal. Goals from Ume, Brown, Noonan, and Kovaleski in the 17th, 35th, 58th, and 61st minute, while Sendeno gets the 89th minute goal for Panama, consolation prize winning as well. When you take a look at this, honestly, this game does interestingly feel it has its ebbs and flows, but watching it again, I had a little bit of it. There you are. It didn't feel as close as the stats make you think it was. The five big chances to one really tell the story. Ireland were just the far more dangerous side. Panama, whether it was on the counter or whether it was trying to find opportunities to break, couldn't really get too much going in this game. And as a result, you see the result as it sits. Excuse me. Other things to keep an eye on, as we said, total shots 19 to 14 feels about the same. Goalkeeper saves, goal corner kicks there. To me, again, shots on target, off target. Ireland were the more aggressive there. Touches in each other's box about the same. But at the end of the day, much more, much more teeth in the attack for Ireland than, say, for Panama. And as a result, that's kind of how the game went. Panama, I don't think they performed too poorly, but just Ireland were so much better in this game. And so for me, I think again there's still a pathway because so many teams will make it through. Um, but Ireland getting again, you get your win, you get your goal difference, you're feeling good on that. I think that's what you want them to do. Special shout out to Grady McDowell, old friend of the CPL, Grady McDonald, playing in Belgium now, but came on in the second half for Ireland, really performing well for that side. He's been with them since the U15, so really happy to see that for the player. Hopefully, more positive things coming for him as he goes through. That was game two. That was 7:30 this morning for me, and then you had Uzbekistan and Paraguay. Uzbekistan is a side I think if this was a smaller tournament, I'd say I think they can put it together because it's so large. The matchups could be so fascinating once you get to the round 32. But they get their first win over Paraguay. Paraguay, all my R's are everything is dry today. Goals. Azibek scores in the 25th and the 45 plus 2, and then Ledesma in the 89th, the penalty at the end. Nice consolation. Uzbekistan more so on the front foot. I had this game on a little bit, so kind of watching a few things, but they just seemed a little bit better. Paraguay, definitely, you saw the defensive strategy, but they couldn't really get too many opportunities. Tale of two halves again. First half, very much Uzbek. Second half, a little bit more balance as you grew through. Looking at some of the things, 58 to 42 kind of speaks everything. 11 shots versus each, one big chance for Uzbekistan versus two for Paraguay. And again, shots inside the box. We like to go to this one as well. 4 versus 5. Definitely saw Paraguay come alive more in the second half. You definitely saw players and team members. Azibek, who is our goal scorer, is the player of the match in this game. Love what you saw from him. And as a result, as we saw within the group standings, Uzbekistan gets their 3 points, their +1 goal differential, and Paraguay and Panama aren't out of it as of yet. I think they have a little bit more of an opportunity to move on. I think with their next matchups, we'll take a look at where everyone else comes in and falls in, but that certainly is something to keep an eye on as we go. Next matchup, Austria versus Saudi Arabia. If you needed a card, business card, flashing card, any type of card, it was in this game. 3 reds in this game. Both center backs for Saudi Arabia off, one directly and the other off 2 yellows. When your goalkeeper is considered your man of the match, that tells you how under it you were, really. But then Johannes Moser scores in the 55th minute off of one of those reds, and Austria become another victor, 1-0 over. This game, again, there's so many teams, and the thing that I'm liking about this is that you're getting the contrast, right? You're getting the contrast of styles, you're getting the contrast of teams who've never been here before, teams who haven't been here in a while. And because you have these contrasting styles, you're having to see players and coaches have to adjust which is both exciting and can be frustrating. We'll get to Canada in a minute, don't worry. And so for me, liked what I saw from Austria as we were moving through. I will say though, again, just based off of how they've looked, players in that notion, players in that way, nothing is ever guaranteed. I don't think I'm ever going to say after one game, I know what teams are going to look like because every game is a different, has a different scale to it. And so as a result, I would say you want to wait, get 2 games through before you start to say, okay, who's a better side? Who is a side maybe you should worry about? 'Cause teams like to get into form rotation, coaches figuring out who their best 11 is once you get to those crucial games pushing forward. But in this game, Austria very much were the more dominant of the sides. 19 shots to 5 tells you that 8 goalkeeper saves when your player of the match is the goalkeeper. Al Abtabi. I think that speaks to how Saudi were playing. Shots blocked, shots inside the box 11-1. And that really does show a lot of the flow of how this game was going. And I think that's fine. But what you're looking for ultimately is what the teams are going to start to look like and how they're going to come to and adjust as you move forward. So you have Austria getting their 3 points, which was great. And then Austria, after getting that, then next game that was on the board was Mali versus New Zealand. And Mali is a side who have performed well at the U17 level. And so to see them being successful is not really a surprise. 3-0 over New Zealand. Bomba, Dembele, and Balo with the goals. They were very much the more dangerous side. They were the more dominant side. Uh, Seydou Dembele, the 10 for Mali, clearly man of the match. Scores the first goal, but then sets up the second goal as well. That player is a player definitely to keep an eye on for how you're going through. But this Mali side, you never. There are certain African sides at youth levels you just say assume they're going to be good. If Nigeria's there, you assume they're going to be good. Right now, Mali and Burkina Faso as well. Morocco are earning that reputation here. Egypt will go a good run, but you see Mali here, you say, yeah, they're going to be good. And if you look at the attacking momentum on the left here, this game was fully a Malian affair. New Zealand were just there, right? Seydou Dembele is the game player of the match again, a goal and an assist. I mean, look at the shots, right? 3 big chances, but 24 shots. You want them to be a little bit better. 9 saves for New Zealand versus 1 for Mali. That tells you everything you need to know. Shots inside the box, 15-4. Again, tells you a little bit more. And then touches inside the box, 32-10. Very offensive minded of how I'm looking at this, but just gives you a snapshot on how dominant it was and how things were working as well. Sebastian, good to see you as well. Hey, talking U17s, let me know what stood out to you if you saw any of it. Even if you want to talk about the women's U17 finals, which is the Netherlands who won 1 game in the group stage versus North Korea. I think North Korea are going to be a wagon when they play. But whatever U17 you want to talk about, bring it up. We want to talk about it because it's the format. It's growing on me. I didn't think I would like it as much, but it's growing on me. And now my mind is thinking, what else could we do here? Could we adjust some things? Could we add a few more things here and there? We'd have to wait and see. But we talked about Mali just fully dominant. And the thing that you've seen, a lot of the sides who would start a back four, I don't think I've seen many back threes. I th- It's always a game of how far. I mentioned this, I noticed this on Monday, noticed it again on Tuesday, and on Wednesday today. This game is really a game of how far are you pushing up your fullbacks and do you get caught and punished for that? Because quite frankly, this happened to New Zealand one too many times where fullbacks got pinched too far up And the next thing you know, it's just, ooh. The next thing you know, it is literally, hey, uh, the counter is coming the other side. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? There's nothing you can do about it because then it's speed coming back, whether it's a fullback or a winger coming in, they punish you on the counter. So to me, I'm very much seeing that as a trend with the U17s. I think at this level, everyone is pretty much the same. Just some of your more special players are always going to be the ones who break the deadlock for you, the players who can create more opportunities for you. And I think that's where it gets very much that's those are the details that will separate the game. And those will always be the details that will separate the game for you. But definitely a player I I am curious to see what he's doing. And actually, let me look him up here. I'm curious to see where he is because yes, it's just one game, but I just feel the way there's also with scouting, a lot of scouting sometimes is just football scouting, right? A lot of it is tournament scouting. We'll watch a tournament and say, "Oh, wow, look at these players. We should just buy him because he's good." Whereas you could just go to the club and see how they're performing and the likes. But yeah, he's at JMG Academy. Oh, he won't be at JMG for too long. If he has another follow performance like he had today, he's going somewhere. He most certainly is going somewhere. Right? That's Seydou Dembele, who, oof, I mean, I liked what I saw from him today. He was a menace. I don't like throwing. I don't like when people are like, "Well, they call him Little Messi." You're like, "Okay, guys, let the boy be his own player." But he he's a player I'm looking at and saying, he's gonna be something. He's a name to keep in mind, you know. Seydou Dembele. I think he's a name to keep in mind in terms of okay, okay. Somalia gets a 3-0 win over New Zealand. Then you had you had two back to back. Last two games were just heartbreaking losses for African sides, where CONCACAF got the job done at the depth. And Burkina Faso, again, another side you see at this level and you say, hey, I think they're going to be good. I think they'll just be good. And overall, they performed well. Definitely a battle of two halves against the United States. But a Kevin Sullivan, yes, the Wonder Kid you heard about, who apparently got signed to Man City and could be going there when he's 18 and all the fun things. He scores the winner for the U.S. in the dying moments of the game and secures the win for America in the 79th minute. And that is a game. And this game was better finishing. Maybe it's a much more exciting game as it comes through, but it wasn't. And the U.S. gets the win as it sits there. Let's take the lineup. Aiden Stokes, the goalkeeper. A lot of goalkeepers are your players of the match, um, and that is speaking to the saves that having to made. Stokes had a good save in the first half. Off, I think it would have been off of a set piece. I think second ball set piece. Great reaction, keeps it up, keeps US in this game. Doesn't make that save. Maybe it starts the snowball. That's the other thing you're watching. At this level, one goal can easily snowball. So keeping your composure, moving from there, really important. But let's take a look at the stats of this game. Burkina Faso, I think, played good counter football, but first half, Burkina Faso had more of the possession, much more dangerous. Second half, the US picked their spots and at that last push in the game, get a job done. 16-9 are your shots. Goalkeeper saves looking decent. US again, much more of the possession side, and they did a lot of that damage in the first half, but then carried over to the second half as well. Shots on target 4 apiece for each side. Shots outside the box 9 for Burkina Faso, whereas shots inside the box 8-7. So again, both goalkeepers very busy. Touches inside the box 21-15. You'd want your sides to be a little bit better, but I think these two sides were very. If you're American, you're maybe saying the team wasn't really gelling yet. right? First half was all USA. Second half, as you can see, a little bit more even. But if you're the US, you're saying maybe the team just wasn't functioning well, and you're seeing this again for a lot of these sides. Different formatting, they different qualification formats, new players, new teams. You're always going to see that on a youth side. But if you're from Burkina Faso, I think if they make their chances, they're in this again. A 1-0 loss is probably the best loss you can have because at this point, worst case scenario, it's just one. So you get it, you get a win, you're back at 0, and you're still alive pushing. You're definitely still alive pushing there. Canada did win, nearly won a game versus Uganda. Oh, no, they did. Oh, and oh, the teams that are able to build well, right? A lot of teams are going to try to play that counter ball out wide style. Let's talk about this Canada matchup. Supposed to have friends, and here I am. Canada gets the win over Uganda in a game where in the first half they were utterly dominated, but showed some life. And then in the second, okay, that's a bit of a stretch. I know. You look at the flow of the game, it's showing a little bit more. But Canada wins the game 2-1. Elijah Roche in the 88th minute after James Boger scores in the 25th minute. And then video assistant review card challenge gives Canada a pen in the 98th minute. They score, and it's 2-1. They turn it around. They grab and dash at the end. For Uganda, for your first ever World Cup of any kind, Uganda. I mean, you can't be nothing but proud of that side. For Uganda, they show up, the crowds were there. And then this is where I'm talking about just the overall environment. The overall environment was just great. If you were watching this game, the seating was full, but then the courts behind, the pitches behind had their spectator spaces packed, and they are watching this game. And let me tell you, when you put the ball into space with this Uganda side, the Cubs, the baby cranes, they were dynamic. Canada, it felt almost as if they caught Canada off guard in terms of their pace. And again, this was happening with Canada. Like they sometimes would get pinched too forward, and then you had either Okello coming forward or Tarash was coming up or Magala was coming. And then it was just creating overloads in those spaces, and they were running. And Uganda, to their credit, should have been at more than 1-0. Really. If you look at how the game was flowing in that first half, they should have been up more than 1-0. They hit one post, a couple good saves by Canada's keeper, and then what do you get from it? You're just up 1-0 at the half. They were the story of the first half. And hey, for your debut, you only have one first impression. It was a hell of a first impression in that first half. Canada, though, and this is where I'll talk about Canada here. They need to really play. I know Kevin Conn is their best player, I think, throughout the game, even though he exits with some cramps. They need to really play through the middle versus going out wide. You're not going to really, at this level, everyone's wingers are athletics, right? Everyone's midfielders can run all day. Everyone's goalkeepers can make a save, and your nines are either extremely lethal or are going to look dangerous or not. You're not going to have too much. This isn't qualifying rounds. And so the Canadian hat in me says, like, Kevin Conn is right there. I know it shows right now that it looks like they were playing a 4-3-3. It felt very much like a 4-1-3-2 or a 4-4-2, to be honest. If you're Canada going to your next game, you really have to look at how well you're playing in the midfield. Khan was the most lively player, pushing up the pitch as well as just trying to dictate and trying to create. And I think they have to go through that. I mean, they still on their bench. Like, you look at the bench, there are names I'm a little bit surprised didn't get any run. Sergei Kozlovsky, I'm a little bit surprised didn't get any run in this game. Antoine Bosenberry as well. Right? There's a lot of names here that you see and you think, huh, I wonder if we'll get more run from some of those players. But it's the first game of a tournament. We'll see how they want to rotate this. A draw would have been ideal, but they get the win. So Uganda's up in the first half. Second half, Canada is building, but just can't put it all together at the end, right? They can get to the thirds, get to the final third, can't really push anything into the net. You get Chilajimo comes in with Johnny Slamani in the 40, just at halftime. Fortier comes out for Suji in the 70th minute. And then Sadek has to come on for Khalil Khan. But a shot at Sadek, whose set piece delivery was immaculate in the second half. You needed more of that from them in the first half. And I think that really got them into more dangerous spots. Ultimately, they get the tying goal, Elijah Roche in the 80th minute off of a corner. And then, as we mentioned, late game moments, ball is placed in. Ultimately, foul happens in the box. We take it to review. It's a penalty. And then Yarrow puts it away. 2-1 for Canada. And the game that in the first half wasn't out of reach, but felt like they were certainly outplayed. Credit to the coach, Vitellano, using all 5 of his subs. Now, granted, about 3 of them felt like he had to just because of just fatigue and cramping. Marius Arenero getting the goal in the penalty. Great. He picks up a yellow due to the celebration. But you bring on another 9 instead of pushing a winger out, and that turns to be the move that you need. If you're Canada, and this is almost a U17 thought, I know many teams maybe not have done this, but Canada have the players to do this. I don't know why they didn't go to a back 3. A 5-3-2 or a 3-4-3 certainly could have helped them in this type of a matchup. But I'm curious to see what they do for the next game. But they secure the win. Their first win, that's the craziest stat to me. They've been to 8 youth World Cups, and this is their first win. U17s were basically San Marino. No offense, San Marino. Like, y'all doing some stuff. It's an interesting conversation in terms of youth football in Canada. But hey, they get the win, secure a very important 3 points, and now they have France next, I believe. As for Uganda, I am telling you, hey, you only have one first impression, but what a first impression you had. I think the Sofa Scores gave me the man of the match of this game to Elijah Roche. Oh, actually, no. Yeah, to Elijah Roche. And I think it's deserved. Before he scores the goal, he has a one-on-one defending moment on a breakaway where he's able to get the tackle in time, saves a goal, and Canada comes back and scores. I mean, look at the ratings here. He's the only one over a 7 who of the starters. And then we look, Sadek also is a 7, and Arenero gets a 7-7. He scores the goal. But Elijah Roche definitely is the player of the game. Without him, Canada doesn't win this game. Looking at statistics, Canada with more of the possession, but again, they were not the more dangerous side. They had 3 big chances, mostly in the second half. If you look at the first half, second half, 3 major chances, free kicks and the likes. But I mean, touches inside the box, shots inside the box, more for Uganda, shots outside, more for Uganda. We're still on a first half basis. Let's scroll that back. And then touches inside the box, more for Uganda. This game It's a game of here you look back and say, you just needed that second one. And it wasn't for lack of trying. A couple posts, a couple good saves. It's a different game if they're able to convert on those opportunities. But Uganda aren't able to. A 2-1, a one goal loss, again, like we said, is not the worst result, especially looking at how the group looked. They certainly are still in it, especially with France winning 2-0 over Chile. 2 set piece goals for France. I don't know why they're giving Canada 2 points here. That is wrong. Canada should just be up 2-1, but it should be France and then Canada and their groups for where they're sitting. But I am, as a Canadian, I'm happy. They watching Uganda though. I mean, it can't be nothing but proud for them. Truthfully, and that's what you want. That is what you want. You want teams to come out, showcase their level of talent, their skills. They made themselves proud, the Ugandans. Baby cranes, they made themselves proud. I think their country are proud of them for the performance. A little disappointed they couldn't bring in the win, but ultimately, hey, it's just game one. 32 teams are making it to the next round. They aren't out of it. And if they play anything like they did today versus some of the other competition, you can't overlook them as a team that'll cause trouble to France and or Chile. But they got to convert. That's the thing. They had about 3 great chances off the woodwork and a couple good saves as well. They have to convert. If not, you are sitting in a situation where if you can't convert, you are going to be stuck in hoping your chances come through. So Uganda, hold your heads up. You guys perform more than admirably. You did your nation proud. You did your continent proud. And we move on to the final game of the day, which was again France over Chile. 2 set piece goals in the second half. 1 free kick and then 1 corner, I believe. Right, Himbert and Batola in the 55th and the 63rd minute. It felt very even. First half was a little bit more even. Second half, France took the game by the scruff and really pushed through. Had that on and on the bottom. More possession in terms of what they were showing. Talking about this. And again, looking at the lineups again, this is a full conversation. A lot of this tournament, and Chile didn't have too much of this problem, but they got hemmed back in the second half. But not getting burned with your wing backs pushing 2-4 up when you have your center backs, your center halves who are defending well. This is going to be a full conversation of bad passing and then who gets punished for a bad pass off of a counter. France doing well if you're looking at some of the big numbers of the game. Chances, total shots 14-9 for Chile, who were able to get a little bit more going. First half, again, much more even. Second half, flowing a little bit more France's way. Shots inside the box, 8-7. Outside the box, 7 for Chile. Fouls, touches in the opposition box, 14-11, as we talked about. And again, SofaScore giving the game of the game to Chris Batola, and I think that was well deserved. He scores the first goal, beautiful set piece goal, placing it right in the top right, being the keeper. And so you have France, who should be at the top here. We keep on saying this whole thing should be at the top. Uganda, Chile are sitting behind. Uganda in third, those are right, but Canada not in first based off of that. And so here we are. Everyone has played a game. And I opened up the video saying, this tournament, this is kind of growing on me. I didn't know how I was going to feel about having teams playing at the same time. I think having them all compressed does make for a more hectic and chaotic viewing. There's no doubt about that. But with that being the case, it does mean, though, you can kind of clue in on a couple things. You see a few things going on and then staying focused on the games. The intimacy of the pitches, I think, adds a lot to the experience, because as you're watching it, you hear one thing and you're like, hey, maybe I should flip over. That whiplash aspect always is going to get you, where you hear something and it's not your game. Like, which game is it? Got to go and look at it. But seeing everyone kind of congregate on a final game and watch that, that is always going to be something that I think is always going to have that charm for me. And so here's where we stand currently. We'll throw this up here so you all can see here. So Group A, they played on Monday. South Africa still leading that. Italy, Qatar, Bolivia is your 1 through 4. Portugal and Japan both have wins. Morocco and New Caledonia with losses. Group C, all draws, all alive still. Meanwhile, between Costa Rica, United Arab Emirates, Croatia, and Senegal. Tunisia and Argentina leading their groups. Fiji and Belgium not out of it, but I think Belgium feels like they have a chance to fight back. Egypt, big win over Haiti. Venezuela, I think the surprise result over England, both staying on 3 points in the +3 goal differential. Switzerland, big win over Cote d'Ivoire. And then South Korea, narrow victory over Mexico. There's your ranking there. North Korea with a win, big win over El Salvador, while Germany and Colombia drew it out. Solid matchup. Brazil made quick work of Honduras, while Zambia showed a little bit. Man, the Central and Southern African sides, they're showing out. South Africa showing well, Zambia showing well. They're here. Burkina Faso falling again to the States 1-0, and Tajikistan falling 6-1. Ireland, big win over Panama, then Uzbekistan over Paraguay. France, there we go, right. Win over Chile, and then Canada over Uganda, as we saw. And then Mali and Austria with wins over Saudi Arabia and New Zealand. Match day 2 begins tomorrow. Here are the matchups for tomorrow. Depending on where you are. The times you're seeing here are Eastern time. So if you're in Canada in the Eastern Standard Time frame, this is where the time frames are. But Bolivia versus Italy tomorrow. Portugal versus Morocco, which I think is going to be a very interesting game. Tunisia versus Argentina, another fun game to watch. Japan versus Caledonia, I think that might be mincemeat. Belgium versus Fiji, same thing. Senegal versus Costa Rica, I think it'd be a fun matchup to watch. And then South Africa playing the hosts. South Africa, do us a favor. Do us a favor. Do the thing. And then UAE versus Croatia. That is your Thursday time slot. Friday, you have England versus Haiti. Based off of how both teams looked, on paper, you think England gets it done, but hey, maybe Haiti gets a very historic win in the U17s. Colombia versus El Salvador. Germany versus North Korea. Egypt versus Venezuela. Mexico versus Cote d'Ivoire. That's a game. I think that's a game I'm going to keep an eye on. Switzerland versus South Korea. Brazil versus Indonesia. Mincemeat. And Zambia versus Honduras. Could be fun. And then the last set of match day 2s are Czechia versus Burkina Faso, Uganda versus Chile. That will be a good game to keep an eye on. Canada versus France. I hope Canada survives. Mali versus Austria. USA versus Tajikistan. Maybe mincemeat, but let's see what the players can do. Paraguay versus Panama. Saudi Arabia versus New Zealand, and then Ireland versus Uzbekistan. That is a fun game to watch as well. I think both sides of this level will offer something very interesting in terms of what they can bring in. And I do agree with you. South Africa will make Africa proud. They've been doing well. They certainly have been up the course. But again, like we said, that South Africa matchup, their next game is versus the hosts. And hey, they could spoil the hosts' day there. I think they are built to do it. Looks like Qatar are built to be just a defending and countering side. And that's what South Africa wants to be at this level. But I think they're going to be a lot more. They're certainly going to be a lot more deadly, I think, on their counter. And so we'll see what they're able to do. We'll have to wait and see what they're able to do. But those are the games coming up tomorrow. Again, every day, a quick recap of every games, tell you what's coming up tomorrow. We're going to be back here again tomorrow, talking about all things. Maybe we'll talk about some games that have already happened. Maybe we'll talk about things coming forward. We'll wait and see. But guys, thanks for spending the time with us. Appreciate you all for just swinging by. And as always, we're just going to end our stream right